The necklace should have melted, but it didn't, and that's when he knew she had been there. That night, that fire, that lie, the smoke still clung to his clothes. Days later, Daniel stood at the edge of the blackened field where the farmhouse used to be, his boots sinking into soft ash. Wind rustled through the dead trees, scattering bits of scorched paper across the ground like forgotten confessions. The stench of burned wood and something far worse, something human, still hung in the air. In his gloved hand, he held it, a small silver locket, blackened on the edges, but still intact. The initials, MRA, engraved on the back hadn't faded. Maria's necklace, the one she always wore, the one she never took off. But she was supposed to be in Mexico. She had texted him the night of the fire, said she was with her sister, so why the hell was her necklace here? He stared at it, and the world around him shifted. The locket was still warm, not from fire, but from something else, like it had just been dropped. A sharp voice broke through the haze. "You shouldn't be here, Daniel." He turned. Sheriff Blake stood with his arms crossed, his face unreadable, boots stained with soot. He didn't look surprised to see Daniel, just hoarse, tired, as if he knew this conversation was inevitable. "You told me the fire was electrical," Daniel said, his voice low. Blake nodded. "That's what the report says." "You lied." Blake didn't flinch. "Go home, Daniel." But Daniel wasn't moving. His eyes were locked on the blackened ruins. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, one wrong step away from a truth too heavy to carry. Maria was here, and she never left. 2 months earlier, before the fire, before the locket, before everything fell apart. Maria laughed like she hadn't in years. They were dancing barefoot in the kitchen, music blaring from the old radio. Her curls bounced as she twirled, and for a moment, Daniel forgot about the debt collectors, the threats, the late-night phone calls he never answered in front of her. She was light, hope, a second chance at a life he didn't think he deserved. "Promise me something?" she asked, pressing her forehead to his. "Anything. No more secrets." Daniel hesitated, just for a second, but she felt it. "Daniel." He forced a smile. "No more secrets." He lied. Present-day Daniel sat in his truck, the locket burning in his pocket, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He hadn't told Maria everything. Not about the money. Not about who was after him. Not about what he agreed to do to make it all go away. But none of it explained why she was at the farmhouse the night it burned, or why Sheriff Blake was pretending she WASN, single quotes, T. Daniel pulled out his phone. Her number was still saved. He hadn't deleted it. Couldn't he open their last message? "Maria, I'm safe. Don't worry. Love you." Timestamp, 8:42 p.m. Fire, reported, 8:47 p.m. 5 minutes. She sent that message 5 minutes before the flames. So who sent it? If she was already dead, the door to the truth creaked open, and behind it was something Daniel never expected to find. A second phone, buried in a box under the passenger seat. Her actual phone, the one she never let out of her sight. Battery dead, screen cracked. But the messages were still there, and the last one wasn't to him. It was to a contact labeled, "Don't answer." Daniel's heart froze. "Maria, he knows. I'm going there now. If I don't come back, make him pay." Who was "Don't answer"? Why was Maria at the farmhouse? What did she find out? And what was Daniel hiding? Maria's second phone shouldn't have existed, yet here it was, cracked, hidden, and full of secrets Daniel was never meant to see. The rain was coming down hard now, smearing the windshield in waves. Daniel sat in the truck, parked behind an old diner just outside town, the kind of place where secrets went to smoke and die. He plugged the second phone into a charger he kept in the glove box. When the screen flickered on, it was like opening a casket, the ghost of Maria, staring back at him in the wallpaper, smiling on a beach they never got to visit. Password. Of course. He tried their anniversary. Wrong. Her birthday. Wrong. His birthday. Unlocked. He almost laughed. Of course, she'd use my birthday, even when she didn't trust him anymore. But the laughter died the moment he opened her messages. There were 3 names. Don't answer. Do not trust each. Thread pulsed with unread messages, all within days of her death, and she'd hidden it all, while smiling, while dancing, while asking him not to keep secrets. She had been drowning in them. He opened Don't Answer first. Maria. 2 weeks ago, you lied. I found the photos. Maria, do you even care who gets hurt? Maria, you said it was just money, but this is murder. Daniel's breath caught. Photos. Murder. But he'd never used this phone. Never sent those messages. Unless he froze. Someone had been using his name, framing him. He clicked the next message thread. June 3, days before fire. Tell him the truth, or I will. Maria, I'm scared. He's not who he says he is. June, you're out of time. Daniel didn't recognize the number. No profile picture, no context. But it chilled him to the bone. Maria had been cornered, terrified. Why hadn't she told him? And then there was the last thread. Evelyn, do not trust Evelyn 1 day before fire. The sheriff isn't your friend. Stop talking to him, Maria. I think he knows I saw the report. Evelyn, burn it, get out. Tonight, Daniel dropped the phone. For a second, everything tilted. The truck, the road, the memory of Maria twirling in the kitchen. Sheriff Blake. She was afraid of him. And she wasn't the only one. Daniel took a shaky breath. Then, against every instinct, he drove straight to Evelyn's house. She lived 20 minutes away, the edge of town, past the cornfields, alone. She and Maria had worked together at the pharmacy. That's all he knew. But now, she was the only person who could tell him what the hell was going on. The porch light was off when he pulled up. Rain slicked the gravel drive. Her car was there, a red hatchback Maria used to call a lipstick bullet. He knocked once, twice, then tried the handle. Unlocked. Evelyn. The house was cold, quiet. The living room smelled of something faintly metallic, like pennies. Or blood. He stepped inside. The kitchen light was on. The table was covered in files, photos, a police report, and in the center, face down, Evelyn. Dead. She was sprawled across the table, her hands stretched toward the edge like she'd been trying to grab something. Blood pooled around her temple. Daniel stumbled back, heart pounding. He didn't touch anything. But the photos on the table, he couldn't ignore them. He leaned in. Photo 1. Maria, standing next to Sheriff Blake at the ruins of a different fire from months ago. Photo 2. A building Daniel didn't recognize, burned down. 3 victims. Photo 3. A man throat slit. Pinned to his jacket was a note. She knows. Daniel's vision blurred. It wasn't just one fire. It wasn't just Maria. This was a pattern, and Maria had found it. That's why she died. His phone buzzed. Not Maria's single. Who's his? Sheriff Blake. Heard you were asking about Evelyn. Everything all right? Daniel didn't reply. He turned and bolted. Out the door, rain pounding his back. Evelyn's death was no coincidence. Sheriff Blake wasn't asking. He was checking, making sure Daniel hadn't seen what he had no right to see. Daniel started the truck, wheels spinning in the gravel. As he sped back toward town, one thought pulsed louder than the thunder overhead. I'm next. Back in his apartment, Daniel locked the doors, windows, even wedged a chair under the front handle. He laid out everything on the floor. Maria's second phone, the printouts he grabbed from Evelyn's kitchen, the necklace, and finally, his own guilt, because now he remembered something he had buried, something Maria had asked a week before the fire. Who's Jay Archer? He'd laughed it off, said it was no one. But it wasn't. Jay Archer was real, a fake name he'd used 2 years ago while doing freelance deliveries for a guy named Mick Santoro. Quick money, no questions, just drop-offs in unmarked vans to isolated properties. Cash under the table. But something had gone wrong. One drop had burned. Literally. Neil had seen it on the news. A house up in flames. 3 bodies inside. He told himself he didn't know. Told himself it wasn't his fault. But Maria must have found proof. And now people were dying. Because of him. His thoughts were interrupted by a new sound. Footsteps. In the hallway, he stood frozen, listening. They stopped at his door. A knock. Daniel. It's Blake. Open the door. His blood ran cold. He grabbed Maria's phone and the envelope of evidence from Evelyn's kitchen. Then he moved fast to the back window, popped the screen, and slid out into the alley. Blake knocked again. Harder. Daniel didn't wait. He ran through the alley, across the street, ducking into a back lot behind a gas station. He waited, panting, soaking in the rain. The truth was clear now. Maria hadn't been paranoid. She'd been watching his back until someone burned her alive, and now her message had new meaning. If I don't come back, make him pay. Daniel clenched the necklace in his fist. He would. Who killed Evelyn? What did Maria find out about the fires? What role does Sheriff Blake play in the cover-up? Who is June? And where is Mick Santoro now? Daniel was running out of time and allies. Everyone was lying, but June promised the truth. The problem was, could he trust her? The rain had stopped, but the cold clung to Daniel like a second skin. He was crouched behind a stack of crates in an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. The address June had given him in a shaky voicemail. Every sound echoed around him. Dripping water, scurrying rats, distant traffic. He pulled Maria's second phone from his jacket and played the message again. June, if you're hearing this, I'm probably already dead. They're coming for you next. Trust no one but me. Meet me at the old mill, tonight, at midnight. I'll explain everything. Daniel checked his watch. 11:55. He swallowed the lump in his throat. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was survival. Midnight. The old mill. The wooden doors creaked as Daniel pushed them open. The air smelled of damp earth and rot. Moonlight filtered through shattered windows, casting ghostly patterns on the floor. He wasn't alone. A figure stepped out of the shadows. You're late, a woman said, voice low and cautious. June. She looked nothing like he'd imagined. No secret agent, no hardened criminal. Just a woman in her early 30s, with sharp eyes and hands that trembled just slightly. You're the one Maria trusted, she said, or thought she could. Daniel swallowed. What happened to her? To Evelyn? June's face darkened. They silenced them. Both of them knew too much. This isn't just about one fire. It's about a network, and Blake is at the center. Daniel felt a cold knot twist in his stomach. The sheriff. June nodded. Blake's been covering for Santoro and his people for years. The fires, murders, they're all linked to a land grab scheme. Properties, insurance money, disappearances. Maria stumbled on it. That's why she had to die. Daniel paced. Everything made sense, and none of it did. He thought about Maria's words. No more secrets. She'd been trying to protect him from the truth, but the truth was worse than anything he'd imagined. What about Mick Santoro? Daniel asked. June's eyes flickered. He's the one who orders the hits. Ruthless. You're lucky he doesn't. No, you're still breathing. Daniel's heart pounded. Then why are you here? Why help me? June looked away. Because I'm next if I don't. I used to work for them, but I got out. Maria helped me. She swallowed hard, then added, they don't just burn houses. They burn people, anyone who gets in the way. Daniel looked at the cracked phone in his hand. Maria's last message, if I don't come back, make him pay. He clenched his fists. Suddenly, a noise. Footsteps. From the back. Daniel and June froze. A figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, heavy boots. Hands shoved in pockets. "Looking for me?" Sheriff Blake's voice sliced through the silence. Daniel's mind raced. He stepped forward. "It's over. Blake, we know everything." Blake smiled, cold and dangerous. "You don't know anything, Daniel. You're just a pawn." June moved quickly, pulling Daniel behind an old rusted machine. Blake raised his gun. Gunshot echoed. June screamed. Daniel ducked, felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. Blake was running toward the exit. Daniel gritted his teeth, blood soaking through his jacket. He didn't have time to think. He had to follow. Outside, rain started again. Blake's silhouette disappeared into the fog. Daniel limped after him, every step burning like fire. But then, Blake vanished. The fog swallowed him whole. Daniel collapsed against a tree, breathing ragged. June's hand was warm on his arm. "We need to get you help," she said. Daniel shook his head. "No, I need to finish this." June nodded, eyes fierce. Back at Daniel's apartment, he found a box Maria had hidden, full of documents, photos, and a journal. As June flipped through it, a sudden realization hit them both. One name kept appearing. Kara. Kara was Maria's sister, the one she said she was visiting the night of the fire. But why had no one found her? Why hadn't she come forward? Daniel's phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or you're next. K. Who is Kara, and what does she know? Why is she threatening Daniel? Can Daniel and June trust each other? What's Sheriff Blake's next move? Will Daniel survive his injury and the deadly hunt closing in on him?" Kara was the shadow behind every secret, the missing link Daniel had to find before it was too late. But some truths were darker than the fires that burned Maria's world. The wind was cold, cutting through the thin fabric of Daniel's jacket as he stood outside the small, weathered cabin that June had tracked down for him. It was tucked deep in the woods, miles from town, the kind of place that seemed to exist only to be forgotten. "Are you sure this is her?" Daniel asked, voice low. June nodded, her jaw tight. "Kara's been off the grid for months. After Maria died, she went underground. But she's the only one who can explain everything." Daniel's heart pounded. The answer to the nightmare that had swallowed their lives was inside that cabin. He hesitated, then knocked a soft, deliberate rhythm. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a woman with sharp eyes and haunted features. "You're late," she said flatly. Daniel's breath caught. She looked like Maria, same fierce gaze, but colder, harder. "Kara," he said, stepping forward. "I'm Daniel. I need to know what happened to Maria, and to Evelyn." Kara's eyes flicked to June. "So she sent you," she said. "Good. You don't have much time." She stepped back, motioning them inside. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of pine and old paper. Kara moved with quiet urgency, pulling out a battered notebook from a locked drawer. "This," she said, placing it on the table, "is Maria's journal. Everything she found, every lie, every threat, every face behind the fires." Daniel flipped through the pages, each entry a spiral deeper into darkness. "The fires aren't accidents," Kara said. "They're warnings, punishments, sent way of controlling the land and everyone who dares to fight back." June's eyes darted to a page marked with frantic handwriting. She wrote about a meeting, June said. "The last chance to stop them. If I don't make it, find Kara." Daniel felt the weight of her words. Maria hadn't just been running from danger, she'd been planning to fight it. Suddenly, the cabin door slammed open. Heavy boots thundered across the wooden floor. "Sheriff Blake. Thought you'd be easier to find," he sneered. Daniel stood, heart hammering. "It's over, Blake. We know everything." Blake's smile twisted. "Do you?" Before anyone could react, Blake lunged for the notebook. Daniel grabbed a metal lamp and swung it. It crashed against Blake's head, sending him staggering. June and Kara darted for the door. Daniel followed, clutching the journal. Outside, the rain had returned, cold and relentless. They sprinted into the woods, branches slashing at their faces. Blake was close behind, cursing, his footsteps thunderous. Daniel's shoulder burned, but adrenaline pushed him forward. They reached a clearing, where an old truck waited, keys in the ignition. Kara jumped in the driver's seat. "Go," she shouted. Daniel and June piled in. The engine roared, tires digging into the mud as they sped away, as they put distance between themselves and the sheriff. Kara finally spoke. "Santoro's power comes from fear and silence," she said. "But Maria believed people could change. That truth was the only weapon." Daniel looked at the journal, then at Kara. "Where's Maria now?" Kara's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Dead, but not forgotten. We carry her fight now." Days passed. Daniel's wounds healed slowly, but his mind raced. They planned their next move, exposing Santoro, taking down Blake, and revealing the nightmare behind the fires. But betrayal lurked close. One night, Daniel found June gone. A note pinned to the journal read, "I'm sorry, I had no choice. Trust no one." Why did June betray Daniel? Who can he trust now? What will happen to the fight Maria started? Is the nightmare finally ending, or only just beginning? The nightmare had hunted Daniel, shattered his trust, and nearly broken him. But the fire Maria ignited inside him refused to die. Now, it was time to make them pay, and find the truth that would finally set him free. Daniel stared at the note again. "I'm sorry, I had no choice. Trust no one." Betrayal cut deeper than any bullet. She was the one who'd promised to help him unravel the mystery, to fight Santoro and Blake. Yet, here she was, gone without a word. His breath came fast. His shoulder throbbed where Blake had shot him in the warehouse. But the pain was nothing compared to the ache of being left alone again. He slammed the journal shut, the leather cover creaking. Maria's handwriting still haunted the pages. Her hope, her fear, her fight. Daniel's phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. "Meet me where it all began. Midnight. Come alone. K. Kara. Midnight." The charred ruins of the farmhouse. Daniel approached the ashes with caution. The moon carved silver lines through the smoky air. There, in the middle of the rubble, stood Kara, her face grim but resolute. "I didn't send the message," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Then who?" Kara pulled a folder from her coat. Inside, photos. New ones. Blake. Meeting with Santoro's men. Handing over documents. Signing papers. The betrayal ran deep. "He's been playing both sides, using us to eliminate threats," Kara said. "And June, she was a pawn too. Forced to spy on you." Daniel clenched his fists. The woman he trusted was trapped by fear, just like Maria. Suddenly, a noise from the woods. Footsteps. "It's over, Daniel." Blake's voice echoed from the shadows. Daniel stepped forward, heart pounding. Double quotes. "No, it's just beginning." Blake pulled a gun. Gunshots. Daniel dove behind a fallen beam. Kara ran, but Blake's bullet found her leg. Daniel grabbed her, dragging her to cover. "We have to end this," she gasped, blood staining her jeans. Daniel nodded. He pulled his own gun, a relic he'd kept since the fires began. The standoff was brutal and silent, broken only by the night wind and distant sirens. Suddenly, headlights flooded the clearing. Police cars, the sound of sirens, not just a dream anymore. "It's the evidence," Kara said, smiling weakly. "Maria recorded everything. We sent it to the press. It's all over the news now." Daniel lowered his gun. Blake's face twisted in rage, then panic. The sheriff dropped his weapon, hands raised. Weeks later, Daniel stood outside a courthouse, the sun warm on his face. Blake and Santoro were behind bars, finally paying for their crimes. Maria's name was cleared, her story told. Daniel looked down at the silver locket, now polished and bright. He slipped it around his neck. The nightmare had ended, but the lessons remained. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. The end.